All right, fight fans, welcome to another edition of No Standing Boxer Talk. As always, I am your host, the Bronx Bomber, and today, if you recognize this face, it is former light heavyweight contender, Iceman John Scully, and he is joining me today for a new segment on my show called "The Cold Truth" with the Iceman John Scully. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the boxing issues that are surfacing from week to week, and no, I can't think of anybody better to tackle these issues face to face. No holds bar. He's not going to hold his tongue. He's going to let you know what he speaks, what's on his mind. None other than Iceman John Scully. How you doing, John?
Yes, sir. Everything's great. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So, yeah, we're going to tackle these issues, man. And the first one we're going to talk about, and miraculously, I've been, it's a surprise to be. Nobody's really talking about it, and it is the ban of amateur boxing in the Olympics. So the IOC put a ban on two sports in the next upcoming Olympics, and boxing was one of the sports, along with weightlifting. And they said the major issues that led them to that decision were doping and predominantly boxing corrupt judging. And nobody in the boxing world is talking about it. And I know you want to talk about it. You're heavily involved with USA Boxing. You're heavily involved with the amateur scene, along with your pro scene. And you were a decorated amateur yourself. What do you make of this?
Well, I'll tell you what, they've been, in terms of Olympic boxing, they've been pushing it out off the front pages, out of the limelight for quite a while. Like part of the reason I became a boxer is because Olympic boxing and amateur boxing was a huge, huge thing. It was on Wide World of Sports. Howard Cosell was the announcer. So I grew up watching as amateur Mark Breland, Tyrell Biggs, Teofilo Stevenson, Meldrick Taylor. I mean, all these guys. So now, if you want to watch the Olympics, you have to watch. If you want to catch an American guy fighting, you have to watch. You have to be up at 3 a.m. to catch it. Now, the other issue is the judging. Now, going back, you go back to Roy Jones, the worst robbery in the history of the world.
Just boxing in general.
David and right back to Adam and Eve. Roy Jones getting robbed is number one.
Yeah.
Now, I remember this. They said, one of the judges said, now this is an Olympic, by Olympic level judge, I mean, you're supposed to be picking the elite of the world, not just boxers, but judges. They're supposed to be the best. The guy said he voted for Park Si-hun. That's the guy that beat Roy.
That's right.
Because he didn't want the guy to be so embarrassed by a unanimous decision in his home country. He said he figured, I'll vote for him and it'll be a 4-1 decision instead of 5-0. That's true story. And he said, I want to save him some embarrassment. Now, that was his excuse. The other guy, supposedly, I've heard from good sources that people admitted years later that there was payoffs, that people paid people off.
Wow.
Now, but here's the thing. People have to realize the Olympics is country against country. That means there's a pool of judges to choose from. Now, with the way the world is now, how do you can't have a judge from Russia judging a fight with a guy from Ukraine in it. You know what I mean? You can't have a guy from China judging an American fighter, an American judging a Chinese fighter. There's going to be a bias. There's a political bias. And some of these guys, they're not just judges. They're regular people in everyday life with strong opinions. And some of these guys probably despise the country that this guy is from, that they are judging his fight. You know what I mean? So there's a bias more than ever in this world. So, and they're recognizing that. I don't know why they don't do it, ban the other sports, but boxing has been on its way out for a long time. And I'll tell you this much. I knew every amateur back in the 80s. Like I could name the team, the 84 team off the top of my head, from flyweight to super heavyweight off the top of my head. I don't know. The only amateur I know from the last Olympics from America is Richard Torres, the super heavyweight. The only reason I know him is because I know his father and I know the kid. I know them personally. I know he made the team and he was a silver medalist. But you know, so many things have contributed to this. But the politics of the world, I think, is ultimately the number one culprit.
Yeah, the politics of the world. I think also boxing not being as a marquee sport anymore in the United States contributed. But don't you think they could have came up with some type? I mean, these are smart people, these commissions. Other than just banning it, don't you think they could have came up with some resolution to get better judging and stop the doping? I know. I mean, don't these guys take tests?
You would think, you would think, but here's the thing: it's become multi-million-dollar, if not billion-dollar industry. So certain countries are going to be favored. They're going to get favors. They're going to need people from certain countries. You know, if a guy from Chile wins the gold medal in boxing, nobody's going to care. You know what I mean? So he's not going to get a close fight with a guy from America or Russia or what have you. So there's a lot of different things involved. Like I say, they've been pushing it out for a long time. Now they're trying to implement. I've heard everything from billiards. I mean, can you imagine? There's an Olympic champion in billiards, like a pool.
And breakdancing.
Right. I mean, come on, we're talking insanity here. But pool, let's be real. Minnesota Fats was 70 and he would have annihilated these guys. I mean, you could have a guy 70 years old talking about he's an Olympic gold medalist. I mean, it's insane.
It is insane.
You know, the world is different, and boxing is a victim of that.
And what I guess the bigger issue for me is, does anybody care? I haven't heard any of the big pundits saying anything. You would have thought this was big news in the boxing world.
I'm going to tell you why.
They recognized it, and then they were like, okay.
Right. I'll tell you why. And they figured it out a long time ago. It used to be with Sugar Ray Leonard, and it held over for 8 years or so, with Leonard and then with Breland and everything, where they're like, okay, if you win a gold medal, that's $1 million lottery ticket. You get a signing bonus. You're going to do all this big news, right?
Easy.
Later on, I don't want to mention names, but later on, guys were getting big money and they were flopping basically as a pro. So people realize being a good pro and a good amateur is two different things. You could be the greatest amateur of all time. You could be a Pan American. You could do all this stuff, but it's proven that it doesn't mean you're going to be a hardcore pro. And I'll give you an example. I don't want to name names, but I remember years ago, there was a guy who was a great amateur, like superstar amateur, athletic. He was dominant and he went pro, and, a lot of people were like, oh, this guy's going to do this. He's going to do that. And I said, no. I said, I'll bet you he doesn't make it. He doesn't make it. And I said, and I hate to say it, but I called it perfectly. I said I actually got the country wrong, but I said he'll fight a guy from Dominican Republic who has no money. He has kids to feed. He's got no money. He's got no hopes, and he wants to kill this man to get in a bigger fight so he can feed his family.
That's right.
That's different than fighting guys for trophies and medals, and that's what happened. Guys are losing out of the Olympics. They're turning pro with these big signing bonuses, and they're getting soft. They're getting spoiled. It is if I'm a multimillionaire and I see a superstar kid come out of the amateurs, and I'm talking about any sport, basketball, baseball, football included, and I see you come out of the amateurs, I'm not giving you a $20 million signing bonus. That's insane, and I think people are realizing that. I tell you what. I'll give you 50,000, say whatever, 20,000, whatever. Let me have you for 2 years. I'm going to build you up. I'm going to see what I can do with you. If you come through, if you produce, I'll give you more than you wanted. You know what I mean? But guys you probably know guys, and I personally know one in particular. Like I know a guy personally who was a great amateur. If you would have given this guy $1 million out of the Olympics, out of the amateurs, signed him and gave him $1 million, you would never see him again. He would get on a plane and he would be gone. You would never see him again. That would be more than he's ever. That would be $1 million. That would be $999,900 more than he's ever had in his hand in his life. He'd say, man, this is $1 million more than I ever thought I was going to have. I'm gone. So you can't give people, even in football, you give a running back out of college $10 million his first year. Listen, man, I'll give you 500,000. And if you gain 1,000 yards the first season, I'll give you 5 million. But I'm not giving a kid 22 years old who's never played a down in the NFL, I'm not giving you $5 million so you could turn around and not be pro material. So yeah. I think people are seeing that in the amateurs, and so that probably that contributed to turning people off to it.
Yeah, that. And so do amateur boxers need the Olympics as a platform anymore?
I don't think so. There's so many outlets. You've got the PBC and you have cable TV and you have the internet. You can become famous. Like back in the day, Sugar Ray Leonard, Mark Breland, guys like that, they became famous in large part due to two things combined in one: ABC and Howard Cosell. Those two entities made them famous, made them visible, made them, even Holyfield, and guys like that. Now you could become, if you know how to work the media, if you know how to work the internet, if you're a Twitter genius, you could become relevant and visible to the world before you ever even make the Olympics. And I'll give an example. There was a kid, and I can't remember the freaking kid's name, but he passed away from cancer. He was a pro fighter. I guess he was a decent fighter, but he was so prevalent on the internet. He would take pictures with everybody. It looked like he was best friends with Floyd Mayweather, Roger Mayweather, everybody in Vegas, And I looked him up and I go, yeah, I guess he's pretty good. But I guess what he did was he just hung out with all these guys and took pictures, and he was on the internet so much that he became like a star. And I'm like, wow, this guy must be really, really great. This guy must be something unbelievable. And it turns out he was just an up and coming guy, had a few fights, but I was under the impression he was famous because of how he manipulated his Facebook account and Twitter. So people can do that. They don't need the gold medal. And I think realistically, the lack of visibility for amateur boxing, a guy could win a gold medal and people wouldn't even know about it. Back in 1984, when Mark Breland won the gold medal, everyone on the planet Earth knew about it the next day. It was major news. Mm-hmm. Richard Torres was a very good heavyweight. He won a silver medal last year with the Olympics. I'm sure, not even a percentage of people now know who he is compared to Mark Breland, because he fought, 3:00 in the morning on Nessun or whatever channel it was, So we're in a different era now.
That's right. Yeah, apparently you can manipulate some pictures and get inducted in the Hall of Fame. Did you read that story?
Yeah.
It's a crazy story. Hey, so all right, well there you have it. The Iceman says, "Hey, you know what? We like Olympic boxing, but it was a long time coming, and the way things are nowadays, we don't need it." That's the cold truth from the Iceman, John Scully. Now moving on to a big major fight coming up in April. It's a women's bout. It's the biggest women's bout in a long time, in a while. It's between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, both big time boxers in their respective divisions in women's boxing. Both are great fighters, and this is going to be a test for both of them. This is going to be each other's best opponent, and I think it's a good thing for women's boxing, and I think they're going to be on a good platform. A lot of people excited about this fight. The biggest story sort of coming out of this, and while both women are gracious to each other and they're happy to be fighting each other and there's no ill will between them, Amanda Serrano proposed to Katie Taylor to fight 12 rounds and 3 minutes. You know, in women's boxing is 2 rounds. I think the most is 10 rounds for a championship fight. And Amanda said, hey, let's do 12 rounds and 3 minutes. There are a lot of advocates out there, myself included, and a lot of women that want to do 12 rounds and 3 minutes and want to fight 3-minute rounds. Amanda Serrano in the past has gone on record saying that, hey, she's okay with 2 minutes. She's okay with 3 minutes. She really doesn't need the extra minute because a lot of the argument was that women have a low knockout ratio because they don't get the extra minute to work an opponent, or the opponent gets, when it gets rocked, gets that extra minute to recover. You know, if they would have had 3 minutes, they would have recovered. Amanda says, well, I don't need the extra minute because I'll be knocking my opponents out. I think she's on number 2, holds the record for most knockouts in female boxing. I think the record's held by Christy Martin. I think one more knock either ties it or surpasses that. So it was kind of surprising to me that Amanda would offer this, but then Katie turned it down. What do you make of
that? You know, I don't know what to make of it. I would think somebody at that level would want to fight 3 minutes. I would think, you know, they would want to, you know, because it would do so much for women's boxing. Let's face it. Like there's it's, you know, it is what it is. Like women's boxing is very limited in terms of the number of fighters. You know, you could be a world champion with 8 fights, you know.
And the talent pool is just not there.
Right. The talent pool is not there. And so, you know, people say like, oh, well, so-and-so's ranked number 7 in the world. Yeah, but there's only 9 girls on the face of the earth in the weight class. Like,
that's right.
All 9 of them are ranked. You know what I mean? So you know, you would think they would want to have a 3-minute, you know, and 12 rounds. You know, at that level, because people have told me. I'll be honest. I've never seen Katie Taylor fight. I've never seen her, but they've told me she's very good and
she is,
and she's, you know, everything, you know, strong and the whole 9. So I would think she would welcome 3 minutes. Yeah. I would think that would be something she would want. So I don't know her mindset. I don't know why she would refuse the 3 minutes, but I do think it's a psychological advantage for Serrano for her to refuse that, because I always use extreme examples to really illustrate what I mean. Now, if Katie Taylor was fighting a girl who was 0 wins, 9 losses, been knocked out 8 times, and, you know, weighed 15 pounds less, and she said, let's do 3-minute rounds, I'm sure Katie Taylor would say, okay. So the fact that she refused it is a compliment to Serrano. It should give Serrano a certain amount of confidence because the girl thought enough of her to say no.
That's right.
So psychologically, Serrano has an edge right there on that regard.
That's right. And like you, I believe that they missed the mark on, right? Well, this is the biggest fight in women's boxing in a while. It's on a big platform, and they missed the mark to make a statement, say, hey, we've been won in 12 rounds, 3 minutes. We could do 12 rounds, 3 minutes. You coach females, and you know they're capable of fighting 3-minute rounds. Hell, most of them spar 3-minute rounds.
Right. I mean, you know, and the thing is, of course they could do 3 minutes. You know, and people, I've heard like like a scientist said that you know, they got to do 2 minutes because of this or that. I mean, they're athletes. Come on, if you can fight for 2 minutes,
that's right,
you can fight for 3 minutes. I mean, come on. And it would. I think Katie missed the boat there. I think she had a chance to really turn this into something. It would have drawn even more fans, because the fact of the matter is, there's probably people who look at that and go, 2-minute rounds. You know, it's like kid stuff. You know, it's like amateur almost. You know, I don't want to watch watered down quality boxing. I want to watch the elite, which is 3 minutes.
That's right.
So I think they missed the boat on that.
Yeah, I think so too. And listen, although the fight is still going to be a great fight, I think both of these warriors are going to get in there and do the thing and put on a good show. I think not accepting this fight, and I'm not saying that she didn't have her reasons, and I'm not doubting her reasons. I'm not trying to speculate. I'm just saying that this is going to be one of the biggest platform to showcase what women could do in the sport. Uh, and I think they missed the mark on that. All right. Well, there you have it. That is the cold truth with the Iceman, John Scully, and Jake on Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. Katie Taylor not accepting the offer to fight 12 rounds, 3 minutes. All right, moving on to Jaron Ennis, fighting out of the welterweight division. Jaron Boots Ennis. He is a welterweight, has 28 wins, 0 losses, and 26 knockouts. And the boxing media is on fire for this kid. They love him. I mean, he has everything to be a future world champion. And he will, in my opinion, will be a world champion. And he is just rocking the welterweight division. He is the new boogeyman of the welterweight division. And the other day, Sean Porter went on a podcast and said that Boots is overrated. And it sent boxing Twitter into a freaking frenzy. And people are losing their mind. And even Boots Ennis jumped on and said, hey, when you were fighting, I was one of the greatest things walking since sliced bread. And now that you're retired, I'm overrated. Why don't you come out of retirement and fight me and see how overrated I am? I mean, he even got Boots sparked up. So there was more to the message than what Sean Porter was saying. And it wasn't taken out of context. It was just, people are so hyped up on this kid. What do you make of Sean Porter saying that Boots is overrated? And the simple fact saying that, how can he be rated if he hasn't fought anyone yet? That's all Sean Porter was saying.
People think when you say someone's overrated, they think that's an insult. It is not. He is overrated. I mean, people are talking like they do with a lot of fighters. Like a guy comes up and he's knocking everybody out and he looks great. They go, oh, he's going to be one of the greatest of all time. It's like, slow down, relax, relax. How many guys have come along over the years? Sean knows history. How many guys have come along over the years and have been touted as the greatest thing ever? Yeah. And they get knocked out when they step up. He's overrated in the sense of he's not a world champion yet. He hasn't fought a high level of opposition yet. I think he's very good. He's probably going to be champ and all that, but he's overrated in that let him do it first. Like I'll give you a similar example. To this day, people say if Tony Ayala Jr. didn't go to jail, he would have been, superstar, legend of game.
Wow, you went deep in the history books on that one, brother.
Right. Now listen, you know what I say? If he fought Roberto Duran in 1983 when he went to jail, he would have gotten schooled. He would have gotten embarrassed. He would have gotten picked apart and brutalized by Roberto Duran. But people back then and to this day still have him knocking Hearns out. And I'm saying, why? What, you overrate him. Now, if you say to me, was Tony Ayala a really, really good fighter? Did he have unbelievable potential? Yes and yes. He was awesome. He was this, he was that, but he was not. I saw a few people who I thought were worthy of respect in the game, thought at the time that he could have beat Hagler. Now, come on, man. Like, this is just insane. There's levels to this, as they always say. There's levels to this. Boots is a tremendous prospect. Then he's probably going to pan out. Probably not as great as everyone is saying. He's not going to be maybe on Sugar Ray Leonard level and Tommy Hearns. That's a big, shoe to fill. But overrated, people are quick to jump on, oh, he said he was overrated. That's not an insult. He's not insulting him. He's just saying, slow down, people. Let's let him face high level of quality of opposition, and then we'll see. He's close, but he's overrated in the sense of he's not there. He has the potential to do these things, but until he actually physically does them, we can't anoint him the king. So I understand what Sean meant. Smart people know what Sean meant. He's not insulting the guy by any stretch.
Yeah, I think it's the same kind of talk was surrounding Sugar Ray Leonard when he first came out as a pro, and people were touting him. And a lot of the old timers would say, "Man, look, you guys are overrated this guy. He hasn't even fought some of the monsters in the division yet." Right. And just, so they say things, about certain folks. And Sugar Ray Leonard fell subject to the same criticism when he came out of the Olympics. Right. I mean, he did pan out to be everything everybody said he was going to be.
A lot of times they don't. A lot of guys, you can look at history. A lot of guys didn't pan out. Yeah. And I don't even want to name names. I don't like to out guys, but a lot of guys didn't pan out. And if you go back a year before they faltered, everybody was saying the same thing about them. So, I would say this. Anyone, and I do this not just with Boots, but with anybody. I think Boots is very good. Obviously he is. But if someone said to me, well, would you bet your house, your car, and your entire life savings that Boots is going to be the world champion? No, I'm not going to. No, I'm not that sure. I'm not that positive. Now, if his family wants to do that, then let them do that and risk it all. They'll be having some sleepless nights, wondering what they did. So anytime on a larger scale, anytime people and argue with me about certain things, I go like this. If you're not willing to bet all the money in your bank, your car, and your house that you're right, then let's not even talk about it. And let's just wait to see what happens. Let's let it pan out, because there's no such thing as a definite here. That's no chance.
Let's wait to see what happens. All right, folks, well, there you have it. The cold truth is, the Iceman says Boots is overrated because he hasn't fought. He hasn't achieved fought the world caliber world champion fighter yet. He's on board with Sean Porter, and he's also a record saying that that's no insult to Boots' talent. It is what it is. All right, our last topic of the night. It said Twitter, it's a frenzy about a week ago. It was the Canelo sweepstakes. We're going to call it the Canelo sweepstakes. Who gets to fight Canelo Alvarez? That's the big talk in boxing. That's the big talk in town. And last week, a report was saying that Canelo was on the verge of signing a 2-fight deal, one to fight Dimitri Bivol and the other to fight a third fight with Triple G. And it said the boxing words are frenzy. And it said that Canelo was ducking this person and ducking that person, ducking Charlo and ducking Boo Boo Andrade and Benavidez and the guy that you're assistant trainer for, Artur Beterbiev. And what is going on with the Canelo sweepstakes? Who do you know by any chance who's going to get the green ticket, and how close is Artur Beterbiev to fighting Canelo Alvarez? I think it's a fight that everybody wants to see.
As I understand it, I'm not giving away secrets. It's been on the internet. It looks like Arthur's next fight is going to be with Joe Smith. They're going to unify 3 of the titles: the WBO, the IBF, WBC. So as far as Canelo goes, that's what I heard. The same thing, Bivol and then Triple G. Now, I love Triple G. Now this is another example of what I'm saying. I'm not a Triple G hater by any stretch. I love Triple G in and out of the ring, but he doesn't deserve a third fight with Canelo. I mean, compared to what they've done since their last fight. I'll be honest. I thought Triple G was retired. I didn't even realize he was still fighting. Honestly, I thought he was retired. I thought he gave it up. So for him to walk back into a Canelo fight is unfair. It's not right. I mean, Arthur certainly would. If he's going to go to light heavy, you've got to fight Arthur. Mm-hmm. Period. You can't go up. And Duran would. If Duran moved up, he would fight Arthur. In this position, you can't go up, and that's the problem with 4 titles. You can move up and choose the so-called weakest link and win it, and go, I won another title. Well, yeah, but you didn't beat the title, and the best guy is usually not always the same thing.
That's right.
You know what I mean? If you want to be, you could win a title at light heavy, but if you want to be the light heavyweight champion, you have to fight Artur Beterbiev. Period.
That's it. And I mean, he's earned the right to. He's the A guy. He's earned the right to fight whoever he wants to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just at that status. Floyd Mayweather was at that status, and countless of other champions have earned that right to pick who they want to fight. And what do you make of people saying that he's cherry picking, he's not fighting the best? And I mean, at this point, with the exception of Artur Beterbiev and the light heavyweight, I mean, all the other champions are sort of in the same boat, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's people always look for something to pick at, to criticize. And I'll tell you what, the only criticism I've had of Canelo at all, now that guy has improved tremendously over the last couple of years. Like, it is what it is. And people say, oh, well, he was the tainted meat. I said, look, okay, granted, but tainted meat and steroids, they don't give you skills. They don't give you the ability to smoothly slip 6 punches in a row. There's not a steroid on earth that can do that. That's a skill. So he's obviously got skills. My only thing is, and I mentioned this before on different show, like when he fought Kovalev, all people remember is he moved up and he broke down Kovalev and knocked him out. Awesome win, unbelievable. But they forget they had the clause where Kovalev had to make the weight, and then he couldn't gain more than, I think, 10 pounds between then and the fight. So
something Canelo's notorious for.
Right. So the weigh-in isn't over. For Canelo, the weigh-in's over. I can eat what I want. I feel relaxed. Mm-hmm. Kovalev never got to relax because the entire day and then the night and then the next day, right up to the fight, he's got to worry, am I going to make weight? What if I'm a little over? They're going to take money. So that I don't count that win in that regard. So that was wrong. I don't agree with that. I'm very, 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 very against that. If you want to fight the best, you got to fight the guy like Roberto Duran. Roberto Duran would have fought Kovalev at 175, period. There would have been no talk of, stipulations. So, but other than that, Canelo has earned his place. I mean, he's obviously a top tier elite fighter. He's done his thing. And, I just hope Arthur gets the chance. Arthur, obviously is a beast and he deserves that chance.
All right. Well, there you have it. The cold truth with the Iceman, John Scully. Canelo sweepstakes still up in the air. He is the A guy. He earned the right to fight anybody, but if he is going to move up to 175, Artur Beterbiev is the guy to fight at 175. And then we'll see what comes out of the Joe Smith fight. I'm confident that Artur Beterbiev will win that fight. And, he'll be ready for that. So when do you guys head to camp for that?
What we're waiting to hear, I talked to someone, in the camp the other day because it came out about the fight. And they told me, just hold on. Let's wait till everything is signed. I guess it isn't actually official. So until then, so I don't know. Usually, last time I spent 8 weeks in camp with him. So that would be relatively soon, if that's going to be the schedule again. But I'll be there probably at least no less than 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Yeah. So whenever the fight is, that'll be the time frame.
All right. Well, looking forward to it. I wish you the best. And as always, thanks for coming on the show. This is our first installment of The Cold Truth with the Iceman, John Scully. And if you are questioning his boxing knowledge, his credentials, just ask around who Iceman is and who's he involved with. He rubs elbows with some of the best in the sport, with some of the most knowledgeable people in the sport. That's why he knows what he knows, and that's why I brought him on the show to tell you guys the cold truth. All right, next episode to be determined. Based on, we're going to try to do this on a 2-week special. Let topics kind of develop because we only want to talk about those big topics in boxing, not this and that, just those kind of key topics that nobody wants to touch, but we're going to touch them on here and we're going to give you the truth. Champ, thanks as always. I'll see you next time.
All right, buddy. Thank you for having me.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.